Yes, we could go live now.
Great, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Finance and Claims Committee of the Norwalk Common Council for today, Thursday, April 10th, 2025 at 7:00 p.m. We'll start with the roll call of Finance and Claims Committee members. We have Council Member Doug Sutton, Council Member Heather Dunn, Council Member Ann Witherspoon, Council Member Jim Freya, and myself, Greg Burnett. So we have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Thank you. Moving on to item 3, which is acceptance of the minutes from the special meeting of March 20th, 2025. Do we have a motion on this item? Yes, Councilmember Ann Witherspoon, thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, or changes to the special meeting minutes? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, show by a raise of hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item 4 on the agenda, which is public participation. We did not receive any emails prior to the meeting this afternoon. Do we have anyone who has their hand raised that wishes to speak? And I do not see any hands raised. So at this time, I will move forward and close public participation and let the minutes show that Councilmember Johan Lopez on the Finance and Claims Committee has joined the meeting. So moving on into the reports, Report A, Oak Hills Park Authority Monthly Financial Statement for January and February of 2025. We will table that report until the May meeting, which moves us to item B, which is the tax assessor's report. And we have our tax assessor, Paul Gorman, to give us an update.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Just a brief update on what's going on. We are just like last month, we are in the middle of the elderly and disabled homeowners program application period. Today is 5 weeks till the end of the program. 2 weeks from, or actually in 20 days, so just under 3 weeks, we have to send out the certified letters to all those people that are currently due to renew, to, if they have not, to notify them that the time is running short, that they either need to get their application in or apply to OPM for an extension if for some reason they need an extension, whether it be they haven't filed their tax return yet, or if they have some health concerns that are preventing them from being able to get to the office. We completed the reopening of the grand list to make the adjustment to the motor vehicle depreciation schedule, and that's all been finalized. We continue working with MTS, the company that is doing the sweep of the city. They are very near the end of their first sweep, and we'll begin the second sweep because they have to find things at least 3 times before it'll generate correspondence to the potential taxpayer. But that's moving along in an orderly fashion. And there's one other thing I wanted to mention, and it's slipping my mind. The Board of Assessment Appeals. They had 158 appeal hearings to be held. So far, 115 have been held and 43 remain to be held. So that should be, by the time we meet next month, should be all wrapped up, and I should be able to give you some perspective on what we've achieved through the Board of Assessment Appeals, what has been reduced, what has not been reduced, and so forth. Outside of that, we're just doing what we normally do, which is developing the grand list for 2025. I'll open the
Right.
floor to questions if anybody has any at this point.
Yes, Councilmember Ann Witherstrand and then Councilmember James Freer. Ann, you're muted.
Thank you. Paul, thank you for that. I just had a quick question about the MTS sweeps. When with that third sweep, when do you anticipate that would be complete?
I
I'm
mean,
just curious.
I'm completely guessing here only because it depends on
Yeah,
multiple factors, weather and all that kind of stuff.
right.
But my anticipation is probably sometime like late June, early July.
Oh, okay. So that's soon, really,
Yeah,
to be able
few
to,
months. And then that just starts the process of, okay, we saw this car the 3 times.
yeah,
They then send a letter that it's still completely in their hands at that point, where they send a letter that says the gist of it is you may potentially have an obligation to the city of Norwalk for a tax liability. If you believe that this is not to be the case, please provide us with the documentation necessary to prove that you happen to be at this address, but you really belong at that address.
mhm,
So before it gets to anything where we're doing hardcore work here in the assessor's office and the collector's office of sending out bills, we've probably still have a few months after that
Okay.
to get the ball rolling on that.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Freer.
Yes, Paul, would you mind just running the, what are the parameters for somebody elderly or disabled? What makes them eligible for consideration for relief of taxes?
Well, there's two programs that we administer here. One, the unfunded state level program, and then the town level program that's done by local option that the state allows us to have in addition to the program. The state level program, well, everything is income based. We don't have an asset test. There are some towns that do have asset tests, but we don't have an asset test. It's basically you have to be within the income guidelines set forth by whichever program your income makes you eligible for. You have to have paid taxes to the city of Norwalk for at least 5 years and owned your home for at least a year. And it has to be your primary residence. And the max of the town level program is $76,500. And if I don't have my chart up on the wall, I apologize. But the max for the state level program, I think, is like $55,400 for this year. So if you were a single person who made $55,400 and you applied, you'd be eligible for a $250 reduction to your taxes. If you were, the town program doesn't differentiate between single or married. If you made $76,499, you'd be eligible for a $900 credit. One small caveat that I should mention as far as how we calculate income that's different here than it is in the other towns I ever worked in is that we have a clause in the application that says, is there anyone over the age of 25 living in your household? And as long as they're not a dependent, like it could be somebody that you're taking care of because they've got physical disabilities or something like that. But if it's just a son, daughter, grand or parent, whatever, their income counts against your household income for eligibility. And that's in our local ordinance.
Okay.
But
Okay.
we only know about it as if they answer the question honestly on the questionnaire.
You mean there's no proof that has to be provided with the questionnaire? No bank statements?
No, because
or-
how do you
income
prove a
tax?
negative if somebody says no, nobody under the age of 25 is living
No,
here?
no. I meant for the means for the 76 and the 54, whatever the number was.
Oh yeah, they have to submit tax returns.
Okay.
Their tax returns, their Social Security 1099. If they don't file a tax return, they have to bring in all their 1099s. But if they do answer to the affirmative that somebody over the age of 25 is living in the home, they have to provide that person's tax return
Okay.
as well.
Okay, got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, one other quick, while I'm on that same subject, is that on the website in the city someplace?
What's that? The income limits?
Yeah,
Yes, I believe it's on my website. I would have to double check, but I believe that we do have the posted limits. And
okay,
it's also, I mean, in a deeper place, it's in the ordinance because those
Yeah, yeah.
numbers haven't changed in years.
okay.
I would imagine the communication that goes out to seniors that we send out to the public has those limits. So those that wish to apply know what the limits are in terms of whether
Well-
or not they should submit.
Well, when we send out applications to the people who need to renew and anybody that's called and inquired about the program, yes, the instruction sheets specifically say it. But when we send, I don't have the pamphlet in front of me, and maybe if Lisa remembers, I don't know that the thing that we send out in the bills has it, because by time the bills go out, but we put the advertisement in there, the time frame for those limitations, especially on the state program changes almost every year with a COLA change. So I don't know, if we do post those limits, it should be with an asterisk saying these were for the prior year.
It's on the website. I'm sorry to join in here. I couldn't unmute myself before, but it is on the website in a number of places. I believe it's on Paul's. It's on the tax collector's website, and there's usually like a flyer that people can download, and we update it every year when we know what the new income limits are for the state program, and if the town program changes, which, like Paul said, it doesn't change that often. But it's on the website in a number of different places, and usually there's a pretty good amount of outreach that happens at the Norwalk Senior Center, because they assist people sometimes in filling out the applications and things like that.
Yeah, though, that's what I was getting at. I didn't know whether there was any impetus to get the word out to people. I mean, I know a lot of old people, believe it or not, that were unaware of this, and they might fall into that situation. For example, in affordable housing, 202 Section 8 housing, those people are there, and the only reason they get in there is if they have their means tested, and they probably fall below that criteria. On the other hand, they don't have a lot of property tax that they're being taxed for. But people like that might not know about the program. And that's all I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, it like Lisa said, it's all over the website, the senior center. We get phone calls constantly throughout the year. We probably sent out a couple hundred new applications this year just from people either coming in or phone calls. And we put out a little pamphlet with the bills to advertise it as well as a reminder.
Well, I thought you said by the time the bills go out, it's too late.
No, it's not that
We did it in December. We did it in December, not
right.
this past December, but the December before that, because the application period is February through May, so the time to
Okay.
send it out is in the second installment billing, because then people have a heads up that in February to May they can apply, but
Okay.
it doesn't make sense to send it out with the July bill because it's already too late for that year.
Right.
Okay,
And
great.
what I was
Thanks,
referring
Lisa.
to as being too late was the income limits. If we put the income limits when we put the stuff out in December, the income limits could be obsolete. They may not be because they could stay the same, but that's all I was referring to, not about the timeliness. No, there's no time that we can advertise it in a bill that would be in time for the people to still apply.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, any other questions or comments for Paul? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Paul, for that update and
You're welcome.
those key areas. And we look forward to some more updates in the month of May.
All right, you guys have a great evening.
Great. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Moving on to item C, D&E, which is the narrative on the tax collections dated April 2025. The monthly tax collectors report dated March 2025, and the claims committee report dated April 2025. Over to you, Lisa B.
Thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I'm in my vehicle. I apologize if there's background noise, but I'm pulled over to the side of the road here. I would like, with your permission, please, to start with the claims, because we do this month have one special request, which is at the end of the listing. I believe it is for a real estate tax refund that was created because of an overpayment on a property where there was an assessment appeal. There was an appeal on this property that was settled, and the customer was entitled to a credit. We applied the credit to their account based on their assessment appeal, and nonetheless, their lender, their mortgage escrow agent, paid the bill without the credit, and they admitted their error, but there was nothing that could be done about it. At that point, it was part of a transaction that involved probably 10,000 properties. It came as one batch. So we had to post the payment and process it as a refund, but that is what occurred with that property. So I would be asking for you to please consider taking a vote on that and sending it to the full council.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the claims committee report dated April 2025. There's one item in the report that is over the $10,000 threshold for $31,727.90. That is the motion. Would someone like to move that motion? Councilmember Doug Sutton, thank you. Do we have any questions about this item? Okay, hearing seen none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving this motion show by a sign of raising a hand. And it is unanimous. Okay, thank you. So we will move
Thank you.
this item to the full council on Tuesday, April 22nd for a final review and approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Regarding our monthly reports, I apologize. I did not close my month yet for the prior month, so I don't have an update for our collection percentages. As of the end of the prior month, which was as of the end of February, we were at 97.07%. That will go up for March, but we haven't finished our numbers for March yet. So I don't have a monthly spreadsheet for you, nor do I have a narrative, but I did make a couple of other notes that I wanted to give you just to tell you what else is going on. And when I do close the month, I will send you the spreadsheet and a narrative to accompany it. But in the meantime, we did send out delinquent notices for past due real estate and past due business personal property taxes. Last month, we filed our lien continuing certificates for real estate and sewer use the first week of April. We gave our taxpayers until March 31st to pay prior to filing the lien. We filed the liens the first week of April, so that is done. We are going to send motor vehicle delinquent notices later this month. We're working on that right now. We are still, believe it or not, wrapping up work on our tax sale. We did have 4 properties that did not redeem. So those properties deeded over to the new owners in March 11th. and we had to turn the excess proceeds from the tax sale over to the Superior Court. So we did that last month as well. There was in excess of $800,000 in overbid on those 4 properties. That was turned over to the Stamford Superior Court. I drove down to Stamford, gave them the money, gave them their packet, and it is up to the court to determine who gets the overbid on those properties. But the point being, the city does not ever make a profit on tax sale properties. The next thing that is going to happen, as Paul noted, we have some very, very significant changes to how we assess and bill motor vehicle taxes for the 2024 grand list. There's also some changes relative to some of the exemptions that are applied by the assessor's office. So we're in the process of figuring out how best to implement that. We will give you probably more updates next month in May. We'll know a little bit more, and also anxiously awaiting when the rate makers set our mill rates for the new billing. But time is going by quickly. We're already halfway through the month of April, so June will be here before we know it. And other than that, I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have.
One question that I have is, when we send out the tax warrants in June, will there be some type of narrative explaining the change in the motor vehicle assessment?
Yes, I'm quite sure that Paul and Jared and probably the administration as well will work on that. But yes, we're committed to putting whatever information they would like us to put. We will be glad to do it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions for Lisa related to the tax collector's report? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much for the update, Lisa. Drive safely, and we will see you in May.
You'll see me in the flesh in May. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, and you all have a good night.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, that moves us to item F on the reports, was the purchasing agent report, and we have our purchasing agent, Sharon Connors, to give us an update.
Good evening, everybody. First quarter was, I consider, probably fairly light. There was only 7 items. 3 had gone out for public solicitation, and the 4 remaining items were items that were purchased through cooperative purchasing associations. So in a total amount for those 7 items was $272,718.38. So it's a variety of items. A couple of them were IT related, a vehicle. We did the commissioning services for the Norwalk Community Recreation Center. We actually did a bid for Rexham Park on all their landscaping materials. So it'd be sand, mulch, various kinds of dirt, playground materials. So those are various items, but we estimate the Rexham Park would spend about $27K. And then Rexham Park is converting Matthews Park to LED. So they asked for it to go be a cooperative purchasing association for Musco Sports. Any questions?
Just want to point out, I hope members of the Finance Committee were able to see the updated report. I think the initial report had an additional entry, but it was corrected in the report that was sent out today. So if you did not see it, please take a look at that. That's the current one that Sharon is speaking to at this meeting.
And what was duplicate was the Musco sports lighting.
Right. Okay. Any questions about the procurement report? Great. Well, thank you, Sharon, for keeping us updated, and
problem.
the process that we're continuing seems to work. We keep
Mhm.
getting the quarterly updates, so thank you for your efforts, and we'll look forward for the next quarterly report
Yep. So that will be, I think, July.
in July. Yep.
Yep.
Well,
So,
bring
all right.
bring some warm weather with you.
I'm still skiing, so maybe end of May.
All right. Good.
Have a
Great.
good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, moving on, no old business to address, so moving on to item 7 under new business. The item A is the appointment of the auditor to audit the fiscal year 2025. And we have our CFO, Jared Schmidt, to provide us an update.
Hey, thank you. Good evening, everybody. So we coming to the end of the contract with our current auditors, external auditor, CLA. It's set to expire, and per our purchasing guidelines requirements, we need to do an RFP to select a new external auditor. So we did that. We did the RFP. Not totally unsurprisingly, we received only two proposals, one from CLA and the other from another firm. And having reviewed those, we formed a committee like we would normally do, formed a committee to review them, and chose to go with CLA. CLA has been really good to work with in my experience working here. At least for the last year. I know in coming here and hearing from Chitsame and others, Chitsame, who works with them more than anybody else, deals with them directly more than anybody else, has always raved about them. And so we selected them to continue for another 5-year stint here. So we will be we hope that you support this and that we can move forward with them and continue with them. They've been great about making sure that we're doing everything the way that we need to. I know that some of you were part of the ad hoc committee involved there, and I think everybody was happy with the work that they did in their presentation for the FY24 audit, and look forward to the same type of service from them in the future.
Okay, great. Any questions? Just a general question. So CLA was with us previously for, I'm assuming, the previous 5 years. And
I
now,
believe the previous contract was 5 years. I'm fairly certain of that.
so this would be another 5 years. Is it general practice to try to change audit firms, or is is it okay to continuously have the same audit firm? At one point, I thought it was kind of preferred to make a change, to have a different firm, to kind of have a different approach, different set of eyes. But just curious as to what your thoughts are
Sure.
as it stands on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. I would say of the town where I was before and other towns that I've heard from, they don't typically have requirements that you replace a firm after being there for a certain amount of time. And so it's not uncommon at all for a firm to be there for more than one term. And so, they live by the standards that are before them. They're required to abide by them. And the benefit of having them is that know, they know going into a new year where our weaknesses are. And so they know what to look for in terms of where we've improved, to see whether or not we've improved. And they're able to see any of the trends if things are whether they're good or bad trends, be able to see those and deal with those. So to me, I look at it as a huge benefit of having somebody who has been working with your books for a while, and knows the city. They also, on occasion, I'm not sure how long the principal people who deal with Norwalk have been working with Norwalk, but there is also turnover within the firm as well over time. And so we don't always deal with the same people working on our account. And so there are times within the firm that they have to replace somebody who had been working with the city. And so that happens, not on a regular basis, but does happen. And so that is good, that you have kind of a balance, that you may keep one of the two primary people who worked with the city, so to keep some continuity that way. But maybe there's another person who's new that comes in that may add a fresh pair of eyes to things.
Great, thank you. Oh, yes, Councilmember Freya.
Jared, is there any, do they have a consulting arm?
They, yes, they do have a consulting arm. They can, if there were certain one-off projects or, auditing functions that we wanted to have done, they're available to be hired, or we could seek another firm to do things that are outside of the annual report.
Mhm. I'm thinking along the lines of, an operational audit of a particular department, for example, or looking for certain efficiencies within a city, following up on some of that things that we had in our efficiency report that was, I don't know what the status of that is. But would they be available to do studies along those lines? Or would we be
Yes.
better off going and get somebody?
Yeah, so they would be an option for us.
Yeah.
I think depending on what it was, depending on the scope of what it was we were looking to do, we may, if it's something smaller, it may be easier, quicker just to use them. If it's a larger project, then it's something that we probably look to maybe even do, depending on how big it is, maybe do an RFP or just hire somebody else.
Yeah, I realize that you probably wouldn't get the auditors, the people that actually perform the audit, to do the same thing, to do a study for us, but there is some opportunity to review work papers and things like that if it's all one company. Okay. And then finally, one other quick question. Is there any reason why there was only 2 people that bid on it?
It's just the market in Connecticut. It's, I can tell you, when I was in Fairfield and I was there long enough for us to go out to bid there, we got one. It was the incumbent. And there aren't a lot of firms. They're very busy. It's the nature of the market, and we hear it all the time. We are members of GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, and it's pretty good communication between the cities and towns, finance officers. And so there are constantly posts about this. People talking about their experience with auditors or whatever whoever it is that they're hiring. And it comes up all the time about auditors, that they're, very difficult to get multiple auditors to apply when there's an RFP being done.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Councilmember Johan Lopez.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chair. Jared, a quick question. To Jim's point about special projects, do they provide any sort of reduced rates given the extension of, or given like the new 5-year contract? If something like this pops up, like a special project, or is that normally not the case?
The rates are part of the bid usually. So when we go out to bid, we ask for how much do you charge to do the report, to do the annual report. And then in addition to that, we'll ask them what, if we do have some other projects not related to the annual report, that they'll provide those rates. They're pretty much market based. It's not necessarily a special rate. It's part of the overall package of what they're charging for that 5-year contract.
Okay, thank you.
But just to clarify there, if I may, if we were to ask them to do, let's say, some kind of analysis that we wanted to see if we could integrate functions, for example, we would have to, there might be a different scope. We have to give them the scope of what we want, and then they would have to bid on that. It would not something that they could just give you a list of rates. Well, they probably could give you the standard rates that they have for a partner, for a manager, for a worker bee, etc. But if we were to ask them to do a separate ad hoc study on something, it would be based on the scope of the work, and it would be an independent quote, I would think.
Yes. Yeah, there would be a lump sum proposal for how much they would charge us.
And it's not the same kind of fees not necessarily the same fees that you would be charged by an auditor doing a standard statutory audit.
They would look at it different. They would look at it as a separate project. They would
Yeah.
they would take a look at it like any other project that they would do, and whether it's CLA or somebody else coming in, and they
Yeah.
would bid it. Assuming it's a large enough project that they would bid it on an overall basis.
But I think to Johan's point, it's not necessarily we get a discount from them to do another job. I mean, they may look at it, look at it and say, yeah, this is nice. We've got the inside track here, but it's not that they're going to give you a 10% discount of what their standard charges would be.
No, not typically.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I know several years ago, we did a cybersecurity audit, and I believe CLA was part of that. Don't quote me, but whoever the audit firm was at that time, they were involved in terms of conducting that cybersecurity audit for the city.
Yeah, and we have those audits are being done. I think we do more than one a year because we contract with the federal government, who does those kinds of audits, cybersecurity audits, for free. And so we contract with them to do that. And then there are some other, I believe at least one other one that we hire somebody to do a cybersecurity audit.
Right. Question, with this 5-year contract, does it come with a fee increase over the previous contract?
Yes. We, as you might imagine, because the last contract was multiple years and spanned through the pandemic, there were large increases, and I heard about it since I got here, and I know Titsumme's been hearing about it for multiple years that we were getting a really good deal on the firm for the charges that they had going up through this current contract. And so that the last year of that contract was $103,000. The new contract, the first year is $120,000 with 3% escalator each year. But like I said, the number one, we're dealing with only two firms, and number two, these guys are really good to work with. They know the city, and we've been very happy with them. We know that, acknowledge that we have been getting a good deal from them for the in the previous term with them. So we knew this was coming. This is not a surprise to us.
Okay.
If I may.
Yes, Councilman Freya, yes.
Is that, are they building on an hourly basis, or is that a flat fee?
The flat fee.
Okay, that's good though.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So work them as hard as you possibly can.
They work, we don't have to. They work hard. They really do.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Let them put it all that overtime in they want, so that's good.
Yeah.
I would, as we look to approve this and move this forward to the full council for review and final approval, I would think that we might reword the authorization to include the dollar amount. At what's before us now simply says appointment of auditors to audit fiscal year 2025. I think we need to be more specific when we bring it to the council. Now that we know the audit firm that we're going to go with, if all of that is in place, correct me if it's not.
No, you're right. You're right. That is all in place. Yeah.
So I would think we would want to put the dollar amount and indicate 3% escalating increase each year after the first year, so that, we know what we're, from a dollars financial standpoint, what we're exactly approving.
We'll be sure to make that change before it gets to the full council.
Great. Okay, with that, are there any other questions or comments? So, as it stands now, the item says appointment of auditors to audit fiscal year 2025. We can take that as a motion to approve CLA. Would someone like to make that motion? Councilmember Jim Freya. Great. We've had the discussion, so I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving this item, show by a raise of hand. And it's unanimous. Great, thank you. So we'll get the, we'll get the revised wording, including the dollar amount, and share it with the committee before it shows up on the full council agenda on Tuesday, April 22nd. All right, moving on to item B under new business, discuss and approve fiscal year 2025-2026 parking authority budget. And we have with us Jim Travers from our Director of Transportation, Mobility and Parking. So over to you, Jim.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Pretty good.
I'll try to be as brief as I can. I know that we have someone looking to get out at 8. I'll do my part to do that. So I think we worked very hard in presenting a sustainable budget for the parking authority this year. We're showing some increases in monthly and transient and meter revenue, and those are really based on trends. So we actually have been seeing, fairly good occupancy in our garages in our lots. Our transient numbers are up, even with the introduction of the free 15-minute parking that's citywide. So I think that has been a big added plus to get there. We're also showing a slight decrease in revenue from meter violations, which is actually where we wanted to be, right? We're trying to have more people, so that has been a cognizant effort on behalf of the parking authority. We introduced new signage. We piloted it in the Wall Street area. It was very successful. We recently did it in the entirety of Sono. It's more clear. It's more concise. People, what we're seeing is a better compliance for paying the meter, which was resulting in a decrease in violation. And I think that's the thing that people don't like, right? And I think that's the direction that we wanted to go. So overall, we're showing a little over 6% of total revenue gain coming in this from 2025 through our expenses. Our expenses are just slightly over 2% in that total. What we're excuse me. What we're also doing is making investment in the resources. So we're doing again a conditions assessment report. One had not been done prior to my arrival. So we've had a conditions assessment on for 2 years. We're putting one into place this year, so we'll be able to compare. We'll be able to understand any discrepancy in any of the buildings. We know that we have a considerable amount that we've done. But the facilities are in a state of good repair. There's nothing concerning of coming down. But we're also making simultaneously, the parking authority is making an aesthetic improvement to the Yankee Doodle garage. We heard that in large numbers in our community meetings in the Wall Street area. It is it's 1975 brutalist infrastructure, right? But I think we have a good design that's going to bring a little bit of modernization to it and make it clean, bright, some new lighting. So we think that's positive. Additionally, we recently installed a new state-of-the-art park system in the Sono garage as well as the Maritime garage. So it is license plate recognition. So you go in, recognizes your license plate, automatically lifts the gate. You don't have to if you're for the permit holders, they don't have to waive their pass. It automatically gets that. For transient users, they'll pull a ticket. You can pay for it inside or at any point in time, or you actually can pay for it using your smartphone. So you can pay for it in line. You just go there, and once it's paid, you don't have to do anything at the exit. It recognizes your plate from entry, recognizes that your transaction is paid. Gate will open. We're having people come and go much faster. So it's been a huge plus. The old system had outlived its day, I think, in total. But so I think that we recently also did a complete bathroom installation in the Sono garage, in the Sono train station. So again, positive experience. And then we are in the midst of presenting a potential tenant for the retail space that's in the New Haven bound South Norwalk station house. So hopefully that will be approved soon, and we'll have a new tenant in there as well. I think I'm happy to answer any specific questions you have on it, but I think this was a sustainable budget that we worked hard on to make sure that we're self-sustaining, that we can pay our debt. The debt service numbers are ones that we actually get from our finance department and city. So for that repayment of debt, because as you know, the parking authority pays all their own debt, but that is bonded through the city on behalf of the city, so that we can capture a better rate. But we're fully self-funded and self-sustaining. So I think this budget keeps us that way.
Great, thank you. Can you share just a little bit more on that condition assessment report?
Yeah, so conditions assessment report is pretty typical in the parking industry, right? We contract with an agency. In this issue, we contracted 2 years ago with Desmond. We're contracting with them again this year, so that we really have a true apples to apples comparison, right? They go through the garages in our structured facilities in incredible detail. From the thing, from looking at the electrical to even doing a chain drag, right, which is where chains are dragged, and so it looks for any. It gets feedback from anything that's actually below the surface that we might not be able to see, right? And from that, we base our infrastructure investments on what they're giving us direction is the most critical, right? So right now, we are in the midst of a $1.5 million upgrade to the Haviland parking deck, where we're actually putting a new membrane on top of the deck to keep water from protruding through the concrete. But additionally, we look at those things as the necessary structural importance that we have to do, but also how people use our facilities. So if you remember, in the Haviland parking deck, you have to go to the stairway that's on the side. You walk down, you walk by a number of dumpsters before you get to the passageway to get you to Sona. We're actually creating stairs that bring you right to the parking deck, right to the passageway. And additionally, the passageway is under the responsibility of the parking authority. We're putting an epoxy floor in there. There'll be new lights there, and all painted, so it will be much more welcoming and warming. So we not only look at how we could do the structural improvements, but also the aesthetic improvements that make people want to feel to continue to come to it. But we saw we're anxious to see where the results of the next conditions assessment report, so that we could prioritize our efforts in this coming year. And I think we have the means to address anything that we see. So that condition assessment was recently approved through the Parking Authority Board, and we'll be starting. I think it's best to have it a little bit warmer weather, so that they're out there for a longer period of time. They're not like freezing to get it. So that we'll look at in this one, we'll again assess the improvements that are being made at the Haviland parking deck, the Maritime Aquarium, the Maritime Garage, and the Yankee Doodle Garage, as well as the Sono train station.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jim Freya.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. That's a pretty good update. Had a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
So this is what we're looking at in front of us is a P&L. Do we also have a balance sheet, or more to the point is that what is the value of the assets that we have? I noticed that you're spending about $135,000 every year to put something away in a capital reserve and replacement account. And we also, that's my first question. With 135,000, and we're also got debt service principal of $1 million plus interest of another 200,000. So about debt service of about almost $1.3 million. How much, if you do this capital needs assessment, you're probably going to come up with a bigger number. Do you have any ideas on that? Is that going to be in next year's, or would you know what the capital needs are this year?
So I think so really my history with the conditions assessment is it's going to be an entirety. Like if we it would be in the my guesstimate, we'd be probably in for our facilities about $10 million in its total, right? But that doesn't mean that we're required, that we have requirements of $10 million. So we what we really do is what Desmond does a wonderful job with is letting us understand what are the total things that we wanted to do. Like if we had all of the money in the world, right? What would we do? But none of us have all the money in the world, right? Or most of us, right?
Well, I don't,
so
that's for sure.
they help us prioritize what needs to get done, and what are really the priorities versus the nice to haves, right? We can get we should look at our lighting. We can get efficiencies with our lighting, but should we do the lighting above some concrete work? So I think it's. again, I would venture to guess, from where we are, we're probably going to see, total improvements to the facilities needing to be at about 10 to 12 million dollars, right? But again, we'll prioritize those into what is what are critical investments, and we're going to present a budget that is respectful to the end users, right? That we're not massively going to do everything, but we're going to keep the equipment in a state of good repair, that we're very confident that people have security in using it, and that we also have the operating income to have those, those normal day-to-day expenses, such as, the cameras and the new systems, all in place.
Well, but that's what you're talking about there is what's included in the building and property R&M, repair and maintenance. So that's almost $600,000 that you're putting in every year.
Right.
Okay.
So those are the
your
things that
capital
help us
needs-
avoid the larger massive improvements, so that we can make sure that we're responsive to, in my opinion, concrete repairs are the most critical,
Right.
and additionally water, right? Because people
Right.
feel like, oh, it's a concrete building, it's outside, but water does a
Yeah.
lot of damage to everything, right? If it gets
Yeah.
in, it gets under, then we have a lot of challenges. So, that's why I felt really critical to do the membrane in the Haviland parking deck. And we recently just did the membrane on the top deck of the Yankee Doodle garage this past year as well, right? So
Yeah. If you don't believe that, talk to those people in Florida whose condos collapsed. So-
it's rough. I mean, that people have it, like you get it, Jim. And there's many
Yeah.
people say like, well, you're spending a lot of money on a condition assessment report, but that's the only mechanism we have to do, and they don't stay up if we don't fix them.
Yeah. So based on the capital needs assessment, you're going to come up with a number, and it's going to say maybe over the next 12 years, 10 years, this is the capital needs that I have. And in order to get there, I'm going to put away $135,000 a year. So I guess my question would be, and if I have to pay $600,000 every year in my expenses just for regular repairs and patching things up, how much
So-
do we have a fund that we're
Right. So
kicking that?
if I can, Jim, I think I understand now what you're asking. So we put the $135,000 budgeted away so that we continue to maintain revenue in our rainy day fund, right? And
Right.
and we pulled from that rainy day fund in the height of COVID, when there was no revenue coming out of the garages, right? So we need to build some of that back up. If you look at the summary, I think the summary brings a good indication. If you look at the capital outlay, right, we are
Yeah.
actually we're better approaching numbers that we were before, right? So the capital outlay is the 619. That's what actually, so that's what we use. That's what we use for capital projects. And if capital projects don't exceed that, then that goes into that fund balance that maintains there. But we are
Yeah.
looking to find, that larger number. So we do it in twofold. One, let's just add money to our savings account, right? So that we have it, and let's have some actual plan to address the deficiencies in the parking system through the capital outlay project.
Right. So that's almost exactly what I was looking for. But I guess what I was really looking for is that I got the fund balance, the rainy day fund, so to speak. But is there a separate, within that 600 some odd thousand, is there a capital fund that's just going to be used for capital improvements? Let's say you got to do a whole new membrane on a particular floor, one of the buildings, or the floor is ready, or a ramp is ready to collapse. You have to replace a whole ramp. Or is
So-
okay, go ahead.
There would be twofold. So if we had a large expense like that would be larger than we could sustain within a single budget year, we would then
Right.
seek bond funds to make that happen, right? And we work our bond funds through the finance department. We pay the debt. So the debt service that you see here is for those larger capital projects. And then we use that payback that really comes, that we budgeted. So that 619 would obviously be lower as we look to pay for any of the bond debt.
Okay, so there's no specific capital reserve that you're building up to take care of those once every 10 years that you're gonna have to replace a ramp or something like that.
outside of what we really look as capital outlay, no, because if the capital outlay came, so say our capital outlay was, we didn't do anything. That 619 would
Right,
also go
so-
into that fund balance, right? So that fund
Right.
balance would grow higher and allowing us to come down for, either emergencies, or we would look at, some debt opportunity. But I think, we really see like keeping the state in good repair, using the bond system that seems to have worked well with us, ensuring that we remain solvent and that we don't get it too high. But we also, we don't know what the future lies, right? Where would we need to make an investment in a new parking facility that we need to be able to show bonders that we have the ability to repay those debts, right? So that's a little bit what you see from there. So any overlay that we don't use out of the capital overlay goes into that capital funds that's held by the city.
Right. Okay. I understand what you're saying, and really the thing is that we've got this backdrop of if we did have some kind of huge need that comes up, that we have that bonding ability to go out and take care of it.
Yes.
But if I have my own house, I do my capital needs assessment, and I go through and I say, one day I'm gonna have to replace the roof. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to put money away so that I'm gonna have the $40,000 that I can pay, buy a new roof. And I'm gonna keep that in my reserve fund over here. That's not what you're not doing it, because this capital overlay is a combination of surplus that you might have.
It's a surplus, but then if you go
not
to the other
specifically-
page,
it's-
then we
in
have
other
the
words,
capital reserve and replacement, and that is where we're actually putting a little bit of money away all the time to pay for something larger at a
I
time.
think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it a little bit differently.
Okay.
I'm just saying that, hey, I got to put a roof on, and it's 20 years out when I got to get that roof. So I better put 4,000, or it's 10 years away. So I better put $4,000 away every year until I get the $40,000, and then I can replace the roof.
Right, and then for us, that's
Your
why it's
capital
important that
needs,
we
your
do
capital needs, your capital needs assessment that you're going to start doing, or doing another one this year, just to find out where you stand in it,
yes.
is a little bit different. You're not aiming to build up a fund or come to a number that I have to put this much away every year so that I will have enough money to buy that new roof.
We may, depending on what the results are, right? Because
Okay, yeah,
what
yeah,
they
all right,
give
fine,
us, they
fine.
give us a multi-year pick. So they
Okay,
tell
good,
us,
good,
here's
good.
your expenses for years 1 through 5, right? This is what you
Okay.
should plan for, right? And
All
if
right,
we
got it.
see that outlying year, we know that we're going to have to make that large expense, then I think we would look heavily at doing that so we can minimize any bonding.
Exactly. So the answer to the question is, no, you don't do it now, but now that you're going to do this capital needs assessment every year, or not every year, but periodically, you could theoretically start to build up your own reserve, so we wouldn't have to worry about bonding.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
That would be our desire. Right?
Yeah, I know, we're on the same page.
Okay.
Okay. I have nothing else to say.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if there are no additional questions or comments, we will need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 Parking Authority budget.
So moved.
Councilmember Jim Freya. We've had the discussion, so I'll move forward with the question. All those in favor show by a raise of hand. And it is unanimous. So we will move this forward to the full Common Council on Tuesday, April 2nd for final review and approval.
Thank you.
22nd.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate
I
it.
think that was 22nd though, Chairman. 'cause
22nd.
April
22nd.
is your next.
Did I say the 20th?
You said the second. I just want.
Oh, I'm sorry, 22nd, add 2-2.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
All right, final item on the agenda is item C, which is to discuss and approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 Water Pollution Authority budget. And we have with us the WPCA Supervisor Environmental Engineer, Ralph Kolb, and I believe the Wastewater System Manager, Neela, I believe.
Nalia, yep.
Ba-
Thank you. Good
Nalia
evening.
Bauer. Okay, great.
Good evening. Yep. So the WPCA is an enterprise fund that manages the city's sanitary sewer collection system, pump stations, and wastewater treatment facility. In fiscal year 24-25, the WPCA board approved a 4.4% sewer use charge increase. Each year, the WPCA works with our consultant Woodward & Curran, where we update our financial model to include current and future capital, operating budget spending, future bonding, and we receive feedback from the WPCA Board of Directors, the Mayor's Office, and the Finance Department. The WPCA has a partnership with Veolia for the operations and maintenance of the treatment plant, collection system, and pump stations. In fiscal year 24-25, there were multiple projects completed, including treatment plant projects, where the treatment plant projects included the solids facility, the solids infrastructure study, the bar screen component improvements at the Headworks building, and the return activated sludge pump controls upgrade. At the pump stations, we had site improvements at Aaron Court and Westbrook Pump Station and the Keeler Brook temporary pumping system. In response to the consent order with CT Deep, the WPCA submitted a collection system master plan update in September 2022. In September 2023, we submitted a facility plan update to Deep. In 2024, we participated in an in-person meeting where we discussed both plans and the long-term capital improvements. Deep requested some additional information, and the WPCA team responded with a letter in November 2024. Some operating budget items to note. For revenues, we had that 4.4% sewer use charge increase. We're expecting to receive nitrogen credits for 2024. The WPCA receives a reimbursement for the city for support services for $136,947. For expenditures, the operation and maintenance fee increased the operation and fee maintenance increase was 3.5%. And the WPCA is billed $460 for support services that the city provides to the WPCA. Debt service payments, the expenditures also include debt service payments due to increasing bond funding for upcoming capital projects. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments?
I just have one quick question. Is on the debt service on the interest line 5522, is the proposed interest is lower?
And I will take that question. That is true. So Chitsame, each year we ask her for the bond schedules, and that's the latest that she provided us. So the debt service payment, the principal went up, but the interest went down. So
is that because the bonds, we got a better rating on the bonds, that better bond rating that we got on it? Or not a rating, but an interest rate?
yeah, I would have to defer to the CFO and the finance team, but I know, with the wastewater treatment plant since the 90s, there's been bonds for the facility for various capital. And I know low interest loans with the state, 2%, if it's clean water fund projects. So there's been various different bonding by the finance team over the years.
Right, Ralph is correct in that, so the debt payment schedule includes bond portion and also includes clean water fund portion. So the clean water fund has a lower rate than the bond portion itself. So the structure of that's the structure of the debt payment schedule. Usually what happened is when we go out for debt, say last year, the interest doesn't really kick in until a year and a half later. So
Yeah, okay.
this debt schedule, it's already structured. So we know that's going to be the payment for the upcoming fiscal year.
That's what I kind of figured. Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments related to the WPCA budget? Are there any other items that you wanted to highlight or call out beyond what have been shared?
I think we're all set. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all set. Those were the big items.
Right, okay. All right, we'll call for do we have a motion on approving the fiscal year 2025-2026 WPCA authority budget? Councilmember Doug Sutton, thank you. You've heard the presentation and the discussion. I'll call for the motion. All those in favor show by a raise of hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you. So we will move this item to the full council for final review and approval on Tuesday, April 22nd.
Great.
Thank you.
Very much,
Great.
everyone.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Have
Ralph.
a good evening.
Thanks, Nyla.
So with that, motion to adjourn. Well, before we do that, Jared, did you have any other item or anything you wanted to cover or discuss?
No,
Okay.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Great. All right, great. Okay, motion to adjourn. Councilman Johan Lopez. Okay, I'm sure everyone's in favor. And we stand adjourned. Thank you. Appreciate your time and your efforts. And we stand adjourned at 8:12 p.m. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Good night.
Night.